Hello again, Steve here with a few words this evening on something that I came across a while back, but just wrote it down in a little notebook here, so I figured I'd jab a little bit about it. Not that I'm any expert in it. I'm a work in progress and a student of many things at once. Now, one of the things that I think I keep on harping about, but just because, once again, I do this mostly for myself, I need it as much as anybody in my life that I know of, which is self-knowledge. Learning what more can I learn about myself and myself in relation to everything else. In other words, what is most truthful? What is most truthful? In other words, I'm not saying what is true, because to get to the bottom of truth is like a well without a bottom almost. But at least it seems like that. But nevertheless, the attempt to, I find, is very satisfying and comforting in a way, because at least in the attempt to be honest and truthful, there's that wholesome quality of life experience in a way, right? So this thing that I came across, I'm sure you've heard of it before, it's called Occam's razor. Okay, I'm just referencing Wikipedia, but it's something to think about. This guy, anyways, his name was William of Occam. He was an English Franciscan friar and a scholastic philosopher and theologian. So his principle states, the principle has become known as Occam's razor. The principle states that among competing hypotheses that predict equally well, the one with the fewest assumptions should be selected. So, everything in life, I would say, is a degree of whether it's more predictably true or less predictably true. In other words, if we're sitting down in front of a table, we both have our hands on the table, we can be pretty sure that that table exists for us, because it's like the highest evidence is the experience, right? The sense data. It's like the highest perception of truth. Everything else is various degrees of that, all the way back to faith, which is a leap even outside of, if it's pure faith, outside of reason. So everything between those two is a little bit more or less fuzzy, right? So Occam's razor is, if there's two approaches, two ways to arrive at a conclusion, or an idea of where we want to go, a voyage, for example, two routes to take to get to a certain destination. Well, the more we know about one, the greater the certainty, that would be the one we would want to take, right? So what he's saying is to look for the assumptions, because assumptions are basically guesses, our best guess. So if this route, we think there's a river that we have to cross, they're going to make the assumption that it is a crossable river and we can make a raft and get across it. And various other things like that. If there's 10 such assumptions over here, all of which because, the nature of assumptions is there's a lot of unknowns. Versus this other trip that we could take, it may be a little bit longer, we know that, but there's less, maybe there's only one or two assumptions on that road that we have to take. Then the one that we should choose, according to Occam's razor, is that one. Because there's more clarity. It's like there's more truth involved in that route. So a lot of these things can be used, these tactics. I mean, it's kind of a funny sounding term, Occam's razor. Maybe that help us to remind us to be aware of too many assumptions, choosing something that has too many assumptions versus when there's something else that has less assumptions. So how does this apply? Well, it applies a lot to us, because a lot of what we do in life is based on assumptions. I mean, government's based on assumptions, religion's based on assumptions. our, you know, a lot of times our dietary decisions, if we don't research things and we just listen to so on down the street, the neighbor who just got on a new diet plan, if we just follow along, that is based on an assumption. It's a belief in, you know, something we don't have any real depth of understanding in. So it would be better to take the one that's more tried and true, and that is, you know, researched and so on, because there's not as many assumptions. I think this is valuable. It's an interesting little sounding name, Occam's razor, and maybe one day I'll have to take that razor to my face, but right now I guess there's just less assumptions by leaving the scruff on. Some of it anyway. Once again, it's good chatting. Hope this was helpful. And me talking about it, maybe I'll prompt myself to become more aware of the concept of Occam's razor and to choose my thought processes, or my thought trains and my train of thought and my actions based on the ones that have the less assumptions along them. Hope that works for you as well. It's great chatting again. My name is Steve. I'll sign off for now. Have yourself a great evening.